What is going on, my fellow obsessed Miami Dolphins fans? I'm talking to you. Yeah, the ones that are seeking out content even when the team's on a bye. And it's kind of hit or miss right now on the bye. I love the bye because we are so injured. I want to get some healthy bodies back. We need the week of rest. But at the same time, man, when you are on a heater, when you're on the 4-game winning streak, when your quarterback is playing like no one else in the league right now, you kind of want to keep that momentum going. But God, it's still going to be an exciting and important week in the NFL, despite us having a bye, because Patriots and Jets play each other. So one of them is guaranteed to lose. And then the Bills are expected to play in like 2 feet of snow against the Browns, who are typically good at running the ball until they run into Miami. So who knows what the hell could happen in that game, but definitely some stuff to pay attention to here during the bye week. But I still want to hit up on our Miami Dolphins stock ups and stock downs because obviously we had that game last week against the Browns. And I tell you what, spoiler alert, I'm going to have more stock ups than stock downs because that was the most complete team win that we have had this year. So I'm going to ramble through a bunch that I have, and then the remainder of this week, I am going to do a remainder of the season preview. So stay tuned for that. And then I'm possibly also going to do a viewer mailbag question. So I'll be posting something on the community page about that to submit your questions. And if you have questions while you're watching this video, go ahead and drop those. And I will try to get as many added as possible for that video. And I'll likely have another video as well, because like I said, we've got some time with it being the bye week. But before I get started, let's hear your stock ups and stock downs as well. Drop those in the comments. If you like mine, just go ahead and give this the thumbs up. But let's jump right in, because stock up for me, offensive line, I wanted to single out like a guy. I like to typically single out like a certain player in these stock up, stock downs. I couldn't leave any of these guys off. I was looking at the Pro Football Focus season-long rankings. Connor Williams is 5th among all NFL centers. Robert Hunt, 6th amongst all NFL guards, left and right guards. He's the 6th highest rated. Terron Armstead, of all tackles, left and right, 15th. And that's our core 3. Those have been the studs. No one's going to argue that. But you know what we've seen the last couple of weeks? Brandon Shell filling in at right tackle. Robert Jones filling in at left guard. And you know what? The play hasn't dropped off. The play has been accented to the next level. The way that this team's offensive line gelled, and now Austin Jackson has been activated from the IR and he's practicing. It's like, do you really want to mess with that? And that's something the coaching staff's going to have to figure out, because Austin Jackson won the starting right tackle job in the offseason, in training camp, in preseason. So I know for a fact they don't want to just say like, you know what, dude, you're relegated to the bench. But at the same time, with the running lanes that they were opening this last week against the Browns, with the protection that they've been giving Tua, he's been sacked twice in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Do you want to break this up? Do you want to break up the unit that has been performing at this level? Like I said, that's going to be for the coaches to kind of figure out. But at this point in time, I have no choice but to give a stock up to those core 3 guys, but just in general, the entire offensive line. Let's go to a stock down. Like I said, I don't have very many stock downs. And last week I put Jason Sanders as a stock down, but I had that caveat. I said, let's give him a little bit more time. But man, he did it again. I went back and looked at the entire season. He's 13 of 17 on field goals. 3 of those misses have been from 50 plus. He hasn't made a single kick from 50 plus all season, despite 2 years ago. The dude made 8 or 9? He didn't miss till the very end of the season. But here's the kicker, pun intended. He is 27 of 30 from extra points. And end of the day, you can't be missing extra points as an NFL kicker. It's literally to the point where it's just unacceptable, because it hasn't happened yet where one of these kicks has really legit cost us a game. But it's just a matter of time until he's going to be kicking a field goal in overtime, or kicking a field goal to force overtime, or an extra point for the game. And at this point in time, if you're up to the decision of, do we go for it on 4th or 5, or do we kick a 49-yard field goal? I feel 100% better with the ball in Tua's hands than I do on Jason Sanders' foot. So at that point in time, you have to make a decision as a coaching staff, like, what are you going to do here? And hopefully Jason Sanders can use that bye week to just kick a bunch of field goals and see them all go through, because it's a mind game at this point in time. It's got to be a mind game. But at the same time, you can kick field goals in practice till your leg doesn't work. Whatever. That was a terrible like little analogy there. But you get what I'm saying. It's got to be in the game because that's when it's mental. Because a kicker's job, think about a kicker's job. You rely on the snapper and the holder and the line to block everything. But from there, the execution of the actual kick, that's on you. And that's where your mind is going to be at. And if Jason Sanders' mind isn't right, the kick isn't going to be right. So he needs to get that fixed. But I'm all in right now on the stock down on Jason Sanders until he proves that he can start making kicks and feel an extra points on a consistent, regular basis. Let's bring things back up here. This is another one where I could have given the entire unit a stock up, but I wanted to single out Justin Bethel because this dude stepped up every single time he's been called upon. What did we see against the Browns? We see Keon Crossan leave the game a little bit early. Justin Bethel comes in, and he looks like a legit starting cornerback on this team. I think he had 2 or 3 pass breakups in that game. And now go back to when he got thrust into a lot of playing time against that game against the Steelers. Boom, right away in the game, he comes down with an interception. And here's the thing about that secondary. They're probably going to continue to get these opportunities because Byron Jones doesn't really show any signs of returning anytime soon. Nick Needham ain't coming back. Brandon Jones ain't coming back. Trill Williams ain't coming back. You got so many guys. Keon Crossan got hurt in that last game. We're so thin. And at some point in time, I think I talk about it every single week. I'm like, teams know this stuff. They're going to continue to target these guys. Why are you going to target Xavien Howard when you can target a Kader Kohou or a Justin Bethel or a Keon Crossan? That's just how the game works. You play matchups. The NFL football is a game of matchups. But who's been coming up? These reserve cornerbacks. And it hasn't been flawless by any means, but we don't expect it to be flawless. The guys that I mentioned are undrafted free agents, guys from the Patriots here that weren't even on the team throughout the offseason. Keon Crossan, who was signed as a special teams guy. We're not talking about high draft capital guys. We're not talking about guys that this team had plans for the entire season. We're talking about legit reserve guys that have stepped up, and Justin Bethel deserves some stock up praise in today's video. Let's do one more stock down. Then the rest of mine are all stock up. So this is the last time I'll be depressing, I promise. But man, it's the first possession defense because we saw it again last week against the Browns. I went through the 10 games of the season. We've essentially allowed scoring opportunities in 7 of those 10 games. The breakdown is this. We've allowed 4 touchdowns. We have forced 2 red zone turnovers, but those were scoring opportunities at the very least because the Ravens fumbled the ball at the 1-yard line after a touchdown was reviewed and reversed. So that's a definite scoring opportunity for the Ravens. And the other one was the interception in the end zone on the jump ball to Parker that Howard went and popped up. Holland got the interception, but they were in field goal range if that drive were to be shut down there. So those were scoring opportunities. We've allowed 1 field goal. We forced 3 punts, which is only 30%, but it's whatever. It's 3 punts. But man, in that run, we've now went 3 straight weeks allowing points. And we've seen that it's usually taken adjustments to come after halftime. Luckily, this last game against the Browns, the adjustments happened right away. We shut them down after that point in time. The defense really started clicking. But in that game against the Lions, the adjustments didn't come till after halftime. The game against the Bears, the adjustments didn't really come. We had no adjustments against Justin Fields, and it showed, setting the single season record for most rushing yards by a quarterback. But just once, we got to start focusing in on these first possession defensive stops because here's the thing, and this is a funky stat. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but the Miami Dolphins are like the best in the NFL at predicting a coin toss. Going back even to the preseason, this team has lost 1 coin toss all season. And guess what they do with that? They're not taking the ball first. They are deferring to the second half every single time. And guess what? That's not going to change. Because if it was going to change, it would have changed by now. We've allowed way too many first possession scores for that not to change. So that's in their DNA. That's who they are. That's part of the game plan. That is not going anywhere. So what's the remedy? The remedy is figuring out how to get these first possession defenses off the field and letting our team start fresh with the ball, not playing from behind, because we saw it against the Browns. Once we got a lead and you can help make a team a little bit more one-dimensional, the defense starts playing. You get to start rushing with 4 or 5 guys. You get to turn those edge rushers loose. The game changes when you can play with a lead, when you're any team, but when you're as broken on defense, injury-wise as we are, playing with the lead and not giving up those points early is ultra important. Let's do another stock up. I told you I got a lot of good stock ups here. Tua Tagovailoa. And we all know the numbers. We've been beaten over the head with just how statistically great he's been. We know how hot he's been. I'm not going to regurgitate those numbers. I'm going to spend my time talking about Tua. I'm going to talk about two things. One, the support that he's received this season, and two, how he's making the players around him better. Because going back to the support, it was the opposite of support the first two seasons. Deshaun Watson rumors, a coach that didn't want him, tons of media that were just completely on him, no offensive line help. Look at the receivers they brought out. There were some games where we were rolling out an injured Devontae Parker, Lynn Bowden, Isaiah Ford, and saying, oh, here you go, Tua. Oh, go ahead and do this behind one of the statistically worst offensive lines in NFL history. Oh, and do it as a rookie, and do it when you're potentially going to get pulled at halftime for Ryan Fitzpatrick, and do it when you're just a young player. And now you compare that to what they've done this year. They went and got the top offensive lineman in free agency in Terron Armstead and added Connor Williams, who was also one of the best offensive linemen that was available to any team. You did that during the season. You trade for Jeff Wilson. You trade for Bradley Chubb. And let's go back to the offseason because there's a guy named the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill. That is support. You have a head coach that when he was hired, who'd he call on the plane? Check your pulse. He was calling Tua instantly. Like, guess what? Like, you're going to remember this day, and this is going to be a good day. This is a day that you're going to remember. And that's the kind of support. He has gotten 103,000% more support this year than he ever did in the past. So that's one thing. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was making others around you better. Because you look at the best quarterbacks, and it's like, all right, guys like Aaron Rodgers make their offensive line better. They make their weapons better. Like these quarterbacks, they raise the play of everyone around them. And there's going to be people out there that would listen to this and say, well, Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle are making Tua better. Well, sure, to an extent, yes, the fastest wide receivers in the NFL will help. But look at the offensive line. I just gave them props. They deserve their kudos. That's great. But they didn't magically get this 100% better just when Tua came back. Because when Brissett was in and when Skylar Thompson was in, they were giving up sacks. They were giving up pressures. They were giving up hurries. They were giving up quarterback hits. Tua's ability to maneuver a pocket, to make quick decisions, to scan the field, to get rid of the ball makes those offensive linemen better. 100%. And then just look about the way that the team supports him, offensively and defensively, making those guys better. And here's the other thing about Waddle and Hill. I would argue that Tua does make them a little bit better as well. And I know Teddy Bridgewater had some pretty good numbers there with Tyreek Hill as well. But we're in week 11, and Tua is supporting two top 4 wide receivers in the NFL in receiving yardage. This isn't a 2 or 3 game sample where they just got hot for a little while, and then it's just going to evaporate. We are 10 weeks into the season, and he's still putting up these numbers with these guys. It is unbelievable what we're seeing. This guy deserves all the credit in the world. And if that doesn't do enough for you, 3-0 to begin the season with him. 0-3 in the games that he missed. 4-0 with him. What else do some people? I think Robert Griffin III tweeted something that sums it up perfectly. I wish I would have thought of this comment before he did. But he goes, those that are anti-Tua at this point, it's not even that they don't like him or believe in him. It's just that they don't want to admit that they were wrong. And that's what it kind of boils down to, because you can't simply watch what he's done since he's returned from the concussion and the games that he played before that and say that this is a check down, a quarterback that is being made better by those around him. You can't possibly watch these football games and think that. Tua makes this go. Yeah, the offensive line helps. Yes, the playmakers help. Yes, the coaching helps. But that's the support that you do for a quarterback. That's what you do. You build around your team leader. So the support and Tua making everyone better. Chef's kiss. One more stock up. Trent Sherfield deserves some love because coming into this season, you look at least I looked at it this way. What's the pecking order for targets in this offense? Obviously, you got Will, you got Hoddle. You got Hill, you got Waddle, you got Gesicki, You got Cedric Wilson. And then maybe you even have another running back before it's a guy like Trent Sherfield. And that's in regards to the pecking order. But if you look at it now, obviously it's Hill and Waddle. And then you got Gesicki, but right behind Gesicki in catches and yards is Trent Sherfield. But I don't even necessarily want to focus on his numbers. It's the fact that what he does for this team in the role that he is in is perfect. You damn well bet Trent Sherfield wants to put the numbers up that Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle is. He wants to be out on the field as much as those guys. He wants to put up those stats. He wants to be that guy. Why wouldn't you want to be? You're in the NFL. But he understands that, you know what, we have Tyreek Hill, we have Jaylen Waddle. When my number's called, I need to do my job. And when I'm blocking, because wide receivers and blocking and Mike McDaniel go hand in hand, no one's doing that better than Trent Sherfield. So the fact that when this guy's getting opportunities, he's making the most of them, kudos, because it'd be probably so easy for him to kind of be tuned out and be like, I'm not getting peppered with 10 plus targets a game like Tyreek is. I'm not putting up these gaudy numbers. Our offense is doing great and I get 3 catches for 38 yards. Like it's just not in his blood. He is a hard worker. He's getting the job done. He's doing the little things. He's doing the dirty things. And for him to get that payoff with that touchdown in the corner from that beautifully thrown ball from Tua last week, nowhere to go but giving a stock up to a guy like Trent Sherfield. So like I said, I got a little bit long-winded, but it's a bye week, so we got some time to burn. But like I said, drop your stock up, stock down in the comments. If you got anything for that mailbag question, like I said, I hope to get to something like that. So definitely go ahead and throw those in here as well. Going to do that preview of the rest of the regular season video as well. And then I got another thing in mind as well. So we'll hopefully get to that this week as well. But that is my extended time for today, Dolphins fans. And until next time, fins up.